Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on this exciting episode of TBD Philosophy. As you can see, I am so pumped to be doing this presentation today. I got my Ramiyumptum, the biggest smile in the world. I am just so excited to try and correct some false doctrine that is just culturally prevalent. I think, kind of the hot take I'm going with.
All right, false priest, let us know your opinions.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad the expectation is set. We are so excited. We have our normal power crew of Nephi, Tanner, and Caleb, and we are so excited to have our just favorite people in the world here as well. Brooklyn, Kyla, and Reagan. So, and Aslan. Aslan is Nephi's date for the day, in case y'all didn't know. But with a water park appointment soon approaching, we will jump right into this sucker. And we'll jump right into this sucker and start off with just a quick little overview we got for you. So there are 3 claims that I want to kind of hash out with y'all today. They are not related, and we don't have to finish them. If we don't, that's great. I am more than welcome to stand on my Ramiyumptum again another time. Yeah. But the 3 claims that I'm going to make today is that Adam and Eve did not eat any fruit from the Garden of Eden. Le gasp. I know, so exciting. I want to talk about why cursing is bad, and or maybe try to wiggle in the brain that it's maybe not so bad. Le gasp. And the last one is that Alma 39, 5-6. That's when Alma sits down with his son and is like, these are the 3 worst sins. I am going to propose that maybe they aren't necessarily. Le gasp. Oh, so exciting. Okay. This first one, Adam and Eve didn't eat the fruit. Did not eat the fruit. This one doesn't have quite as much discussion in it, for which I'm sorry, till the very end. So we'll just quickly read a couple things and try to blow some minds. This will be fun.
So what do you mean by this? Is it figurative, is what you're trying to say?
That's, I think, what Bruce R. McConkie is trying to say with his eyes looking both ways.
Yes. Would one of you be willing to read this for me?
Yeah, I got it. The account is speaking figuratively. What is meant by partaking of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is that our first parents complied with whatever laws were involved so that their bodies would change from their state of paradisical immortality to a state of natural mortality. Elder McConkie also wrote elsewhere, we do not know how the fall was accomplished any more than we know how the Lord caused the earth to come into being and to spin through the heavens in its paradisical state. Wow.
Okay.
That's coming
Any initial
from
hot takes?
Bruce McConkie.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, but I mean, in certain places we are told that they do partake of the fruit, right?
All right. I'll push a little harder on you, Tanner.
All right.
Not trying to single you out. This is just a scholar, secular source, non-Latter-day Saint take. More so trying to emphasize, just early Old Testament writing is just figurative speech heavy. Anyone want to read this one for me?
I got you. So, Scholar Voss concurs, concluding that the tree was associated with the higher, the unchangeable, the eternal life to be secured by obedience throughout the probation.
So I guess the hot take there is the scholar saying that it's got this figurative take as well. It's, if you want, I cited her because you can go read a lot more about it, but more so just there's it's just how they wrote back then, the oldies. I will. Oh, so sorry. Did someone say something?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Um, I will pause for just a second here. Now that I've presented my case, any initial thoughts? Anyone want to say what McConkie? That man, you can't quote him because he's sometimes wrong, or any aggression.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're wrong.
Oh, go ahead, Caleb.
I was just gonna say you're wrong because mainstream media tells you that you're wrong.
Wow, it's almost like I centered this presentation around trying to correct mainstream media or something. But
So I guess the question is, so then what is the purpose of calling it a fruit and saying that they partook of the fruit, right? Like, is it just to make it easier for us, monkey people to visualize it and to understand it, or is it to like, or is it just a metaphor,
And to be fair, that is the case with most, well, pretty much all parables that the Savior gives in the New Testament. Is he's like, well, here's a parable, something that you understand metaphorically to understand a more literal principle. So it could be something along those lines.
Yeah.
I am loving the thought process. The last slide on this topic will be me kind of proposing what some actual other interpretations, what they might be, Tanner. Hopefully that would maybe appease the soul to know that I'm not just saying there's no answer, but we're wrong.
I mean, there had to be something to pinpoint right for the devil to actually be like, here, Adam and Eve, you should do this thing, even if it's not eat this thing.
Yeah.
There's like something,
Like an action had to take place, a choice occurred,
regardless of whether that was actually eating a piece of fruit or not. Something had to happen, something physical, in order for them to become physical, honestly.
I think you guys are 100% on the right train of thought. When I was first told this, I guess I was shown the McConkie quote first by one of my religious classes at BYU. Like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what the heck? This is crazy. I don't know. I just remember having so many debates on my mission with like, not so much debates, it's just, well, I sometimes debates, just discussions with my companions, being like, what does this mean? What do you think this happened? And then like, I come home and with one quote, like the entire premise of all of our discussions were like, just not even true. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Are there any contradicting doctrine or like any contradicting quotes to Bruce R. McConkie?
Well, you don't say.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, you were prepared for that one. Okay.
So this is just in case there's any silent person in the audience who says, no, don't take my tree away. I will let you know that the idea that there was an actual tree like is not coming out of nowhere. It's because it was like actually taught by church leaders. The caveat I would add is that seems to be more of a past understanding. But I don't know. I mean, you got the like Brigham Young. That's like that's like just below Joseph Smith as far as like big names go, right? And
Yeah,
James
but listening to
Talmage
Brigham
is
Young is like listening to Donald Trump speak. It's very exaggerated in the long times.
okay. Well,
Not that I would compare a great man like Brigham Young to a man like Trump, but like their way of speaking was similar.
And then he did say some things about black people as well that are not doctrine. So
Trump talks about Mexicans, Brigham Young talked about black people. Maybe they're more similar than I thought.
But I also got Talmage up there then, the great scholar of the apostles.
Huge, smart dude.
But yeah, so I guess this is an invitation to do your own research if you're so like, I don't know, if you have inner turmoil. You guys kind of accepted this whole thing like way too easy. Like when I learned this, I was like, no way.
I don't know if
Oh,
we've
well-
accepted it so much as like silently pondered it.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
still processing the shock, Joseph. You just blew our minds.
I love it. I hope to give you such a feeling for the next two topics as well. Just get the gears turning, huh?
Yeah.
And
I
if
still think
you
that there was something physical that took place. I think there had to have been. I don't think that it might have been an apple or whatever necessarily. But like it says here, like indulgence in food unsuited to her nature, like that implies that there was more than one time that she indulged in it, right? So I don't
I
know, maybe.
yeah, maybe. I guess
I don't know about
yeah,
that.
I mean I wanted to bring these up to these quotes to let you guys know that your previous views did not come from nowhere. If you read now, it definitely seems like those views are out and these views are in, as far as like, for our bajillion audio listeners. It seems like the McConkie and the Hamilton quotes are kind of the new accepted. But that's kind of one of the beautiful things about topics like this is your salvation's not going to change depending on your view. And so if you wake up happier with one view over the other, be happier. And that's my take. But
Yeah, speculate.
What?
That's too nice
What
of
is
a
it?
doctrine that you're preaching there. I think that you should. I think that you should feel bad if you're wrong.
Oh yeah. Well, I will let you feel bad then if you pick the old view, Caleb, and if you pick the new view, then you can feel good. Sorry, I don't see your guys' faces. I think I heard either Reagan or
Oh,
Pilot
I wanted
piping
to say
up.
something. What is it that leads you to believe that some of the views are out and some of the views are in? Like, are you just going off of the date that the quotes were given, or do you have evidence that modern day apostles have backed one of these views?
Well, hi, cutie. I feel embarrassed that I didn't realize it was you, but with your voice. So this last slide, Tanner, you were wanting to know, what else is there, basically. Then what's the interpretation we should take? In the description of this slide, which I'll make sure all of you have access to, is just a super rich, amazing article proposing a new view. And why I think this new view is maybe more accurate than the old. To go back to your question, Brooklyn, my understanding is the Bible was just seen very literally, just like not just among the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but that was like the Baptist, the Evangelicalist, the Pentecostalist. Like it was just the text was viewed like so literally, and so hence, like, if Adam and Eve ate fruit, like they ate fruit, you know. And my understanding is with more research and documents that we've been able to see from ancient Jewish writings, we have been able to understand more of how they viewed the text and just how often and how much they incorporated stories and parables and whatnot in their writings. So
I don't know, man. I'm just looking
yeah,
this up, and there's in DNC it says that they partook of the fruit as well.
Well, I'll give you some background then. Some of the answers that this article tries to give you. The first answer I guess the setup it tries to give is it says that the Adam and Eve story is actually mirroring the story of a temple of, if I remember right, that like the tree of knowledge of good and evil is, so most temples have like three layers. They got like the grounds inside the temple and then the holies of holies, and each of those layers like progressively more sacred. And the tree of life was actually like this room of holies. And like Kyla, I think it was Kyla who said, it still wasn't necessary. What made it bad, the eating of the fruit, was the timing. And that's what Satan was punished for, that he encouraged Adam and Eve to try to approach, to try to enter this next layer of holiness without being ready. That's that that's the hot take there, and that the tree of life is actually representing the holy of holies, and that the tree itself, what's the word? It's called like an adumandi. I guess trees are like amazing symbolism in ancient civilization, because you got like the top of the trees represent the heavens, the trunk represents the earth, and the roots represent like the underworld. And so trees are these symbols where all three worlds come together in one. Just how like Lehi's dream, when they're trying to get to the tree of life, like, and it represents Christ. Christ is that like binding of three worlds into one. I don't know. I thought pretty cool.
That
The
just
article
reminds
in,
me of the Norse Yggdrasil tree, you know? There's like a lot of
yeah,
tree symbology in like all different religions.
Almost like there was one true religion that a lot of religions splintered from and took
No,
over
it's
the truth
crazy.
with them.
What a coincidence.
No, that can't be it though.
I,
That can't be right.
yeah, but
No,
all
that is interesting though, that it is symbolic, and that are you saying like it represents the old temples, the old Jewish temples?
I guess not so much represents as mirrors
Or mirrored in the
the
Jewish temple? Yeah.
experience. Yeah, like honestly, maybe more so like the temples are trying to mirror Adam and Eve's experience of
Mhm.
progressively entering these holier places.
Maybe what happened is they knew about the plan, and Satan convinced them to try to go into the presence of God before they were ready, or some similar sort of situation, and that's why Satan was punished, and that's why we were cast out.
But then where would he have put
Yeah,
the angel with the flaming sword to keep them out?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I I don't remember that one in particular, but I'm pretty sure that's also talked in the article. I promise y'all the article in the description, and I'll link these slides in the video. I feel like just nails it in presenting um, alternative meanings. I think it was so cool. Brooklyn and I were reading it at like 12 o'clock at night, and we were like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? Mind's blown.
Hey,
Um,
Joseph, can you actually post that link in the chat too? I can't find the
okay.
description.
Yes, I will do. I just sent it in live stream chat. Oh wait, we don't have a live stream.
No, it's
Studio chat.
studio chat.
I just sent it. My only request is read it later so that we will continue the party here.
Hey,
Okay,
sounds
sounds
But it
good.
good.
is so good.
And what
I
what time
promise
are
it's
you
so
guys
good.
needing to head out?
We'll need to leave in about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Probably like
Hopefully we can
25.
at least we'll totally be able to bust out cursing, I think, pretty well then. And maybe even the last one. But I guess sorry, before I do that, did anyone want to say any last 2 cents of discussing the turmoil in their soul, realizing that something they were taught when they were 2 years old is not necessarily the most accurate?
No, I feel like, figurative makes sense.
Okay. And like it is a
Mm-hmm.
Well, I super appreciate your honesty, Brooklyn. I hope someday to convince all of you that I am right and what your primary teachers taught you was entirely wrong. But I guess it doesn't have to be entirely. But yeah,
As at many a
I
church,
mean, I
false doctrine abounds.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, kids, today we're going to learn about symbology of the tree of life.
Yeah, they're 7. I think they'll get it. But no, I agree. I know I think this is a big one. Ever since learning this, my views on the Adam and Eve story just have never stopped evolving, and it just has really blown my mind. And I guess my point of bringing this up is I hope you guys have a similar experience. I hope that you question more, think more, and learn more than you would have otherwise. So,
Cool. Yeah.
thanks for joining me in the talk, y'all. Cursing. Bum, bum,
We got some strong opinions
bum.
over here.
Oh, exciting. That is what I want. I'm so glad. I guess to preface, my goal, I think my goal with cursing is twofold. I think I basically want to say it's a pseudo sin, and I will explain more what I mean by that later. But I guess in short, um, it is a cultural construct that I don't really imagine us having in heaven, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. Let me explain a little more what I mean. Okay. So to start, I would like to share the explicitive lifestyle cycle. That was a fun title that I enjoyed making.
It's explicative, by the way.
Oh, explicative life cycle. Thank you.
I don't want you to keep saying it and sound silly.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So basically, a typical life cycle that we can see with some swear words um, are very cultural in origin. We'll just popcorn read. If people want to read each of these bullet point stuff, I'll popcorn Nephi if you'd be willing to start us off.
Oh, it just barely loaded for me. Origin, taboo, subject, bodily functions, sex, religion, etc. Insulting or offensive term, word with negative connotation. Like poo-poo.
Thank you, Nephi.
Yeah.
You're cutting out a lot.
It's all good,
And
though.
Don't worry about
and
it.
will you popcorn someone else to read Nephi?
Kyla.
All right. Initial usage limited to specific groups or contexts. Examples: there's subcultures, close social circles, used to express strong emotions, shock value, or to create group identity. Brooklyn, why don't you take the next one?
And we asked someone else to popcorn read Brooklyn.
Yeah. Mainstream usage. Frequent usage in everyday conversations, losing its original offensive power and becoming part of a common vernacular. And I'll popcorn Reagan.
Right. Evolution or replacement. Words may evolve in meaning or usage. Word may be replaced by a new, more shocking term. Word may become obsolete or lose its power altogether. And then Tanner, if there's another one.
Oh, that was actually it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you guys. Okay, so I share this life cycle because I guess the point I want to make is there's not a list of words to never say, or else it's sinning in the scriptures. And I will pause on "Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain." We will specifically address that slide in a moment near the end of this. But I guess, yeah, what's your guys' hot take on my explanation of the origin?
I mean, it makes sense. Every time that you hear a swear word, it usually is, I feel like, just to like express emotion or for shock value. Like that's the times I feel like that's when I see it most. Yeah, so that's what I think on the origin. What do you think?
One
Okay,
thing that I've
and
always
go ahead.
sorry, I'll go quick. One thing I've always thought was interesting. I heard a quote that says that it's the that people that use swear words a lot, like that, like habitually in their everyday conversation, are less intelligent because they just don't have larger vocabularies, and I personally like that.
You like less intelligence
Okay.
or larger vocabulary?
I like being smarter. I like being smarter than other people. So
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting here too, just with this life cycle that you put up here, this honestly follows a lot of not even just swear words, but just a lot of lingo in sociolinguistics. I remember there was a sociolinguistics class that I took at BYU that there were things that we talked about with how do certain terms or words or things evolve over time. So it's not just swear words. I think, like things like shock value and things, maybe that's more specific to curse words. But overall, this is just language in and of itself. And of course, it's going to be different in different parts of the world. The English that we speak here is going to be different than the English that you'd be used to if we lived in England or South Africa or wherever,
Yeah, like saying bloody isn't as bad for us as it is for English types.
Yeah, although
that
you
is
just
true.
picked someone from England now listening to them.
We make fun swear with the word bloody. Like we make fun of like they're swearing with that.
Yeah, I didn't
but it's gone through the same life cycle.
Yeah,
So.
she would say things that I would think were a swear word, and then I'd say things that she'd think were a swear word. But it's just how we're used to it from our cultures.
Wow. Well, I love this setup, this context around this origin of swear words. How, I mean, Kyla, you're like, this is not just swear words, this is just words in general, and I'm loving the I'm loving the connections of how you see like it's not even like universal across cultures that speak the same language. So yeah, it's great. If you guys want, again, another more, I try to put more deep diving that you can do in the description of the slides. There's an article I have called "The History of Swear Words," where the and signed, percentage sign, at sign, exclamation mark, do they come from? That's an article, but then Netflix actually has a TV show dedicated to, it's called History of Swear Words, hosted by Nicolas Cage. So
Oh, I want to watch that now.
Cool.
if you want the more colorful explanation, it's there. If you want the more civil explanation, read the article. But maybe clean, I don't know. However you want to say it. But okay, so this backdrop, wanted to drive the point that I feel like swear words are a very cultural phenomena, and that ultimately, I think the negativity around swear words comes from when people feel like you're either trying to be crude. That's some crude oil. Ha ha ha. People think you're either trying to be crude, and or there's kind of like some peer pressure that like people feel either to swear or not to swear. Right, like, oh, like you think you're better than me, or oh, you're not part of our group, or yada yada yada, whatever you want to say. Basically, I guess, yeah, more further hitting that it's a cultural thing. So as far as sin sin for this, I'm saying with quotation marks, would go, I think it 100% just depends on your intent. So like, man, I know and I've met people who like swear and they want to be seen as like tough or kind of, coarse or crude, and I think that's the persona that they communicate. And then I also know people who, man, they just swear and it's like not even a second thought. Like I did have a slide in here from our good old Gold and Kimball. And it was funny, I just grabbed a couple quotes from him of him swearing, but I just was like, okay, maybe people wouldn't want to be forced to be swearing if I asked them to read, even if it's an apostle. But but I don't know, I guess my hot take, again, we haven't talked about the Lord's name yet, the commandment there, but I think that in general, swearing, if someone is like trying to be rude about it, then I think it's rude. If someone is just talking to talk, I really don't think it's a big deal. Thoughts?
Well, I like to get things from the source when I can. And the church actually has a topics on profanity. So should I go ahead and read that? Or do you have it later?
I didn't think of that. I got the For Strength of Youth, the one we grew up with, and the new one. But my guess is the topic is maybe a little long. Is there like a specific quote you like from it?
Yeah, it's only like 2 paragraphs. It's not too bad.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead and read it, Tanner. Yeah.
It also includes any type of unclean or vulgar speech or behavior, profane, vulgar, or crude language or gestures, as well as immoral jokes are offensive to the Lord and to others. Foul language is both degrading and harmful to the spirit. We should not let others influence us to use foul language. Instead, we should use clean language that uplifts and edifies others, and choose friends who use good language. Those who have developed a habit of swearing can break it, and they must begin by making a decision to change and then pray for help.
In a lot of ways, honestly, I think swearing kind of sounds like an addiction. And if we take it the addiction route, then it does kind of more closely align to that idea of if it's a sin or not, right? Then it would be more like a sin. But I think it's almost like a contagious addiction, right? I mean, we've all been around people that we start to kind of pick up on their linguistic habits, right? I mean, a lot of us, I think we've all been around, I don't know, even like church speak or missionary speak, like just you pick up things from the way that people speak around you. And so if you're around people who are swearing a lot, you're probably going to pick that up. And so it's a bad habit that can be an addiction, I think. It's contagious. And I mean, a lot of addictions are not contagious. I would call this one contagious, if that makes any sense at all.
Can I share a story?
Please, go ahead.
It's a personal story. So back when I was in high school, I had an experience with this, and it was like one of those very classic like church story, like, oh, I did this and I felt terrible afterwards thing. But like one of my first experiences with like actually trying to swear was when I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and he had another friend group that he hung out with as well. And so like that other friend, a couple of friends from that group came over, and we decided to all hang out together. And so one of the first things that this other friend group asked was like, okay, which one of you is the Molly Mormon? And I got singled out, and then they pointed at me, and then the not so good friend group was like, yeah, well, we like to use the F word a lot, but like they didn't say the F word, they actually said it. And I realized that what the kind of the vibe of the rest of the night was going to be. But like at the same time, like as the night went on and I kept hanging out with them, I felt this overwhelming like urge to like fit in and to like conform and like be cool with them, because like that's what they were all doing. And so I started swearing, and I did it throughout the night, and I felt terrible afterwards, because it's like my other friend, he didn't swear, like he actually like he didn't do any of those things to like fit in or anything. It's just like he was just doing like what he always did, and I was just trying to fit in. And I felt really bad that night when I got home because I was like, wow, I totally just dropped my standards in order to try to fit in. So I don't know, let that be a word of warning to you all. But
Yeah, makes you feel bad.
definitely have experience with that.
Wow, man.
I
Well,
guess
this
the
is like,
question is, so you felt uncomfortable, but is it a sin to do that? I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
That's a fair question. So
I
was I wrong to try to fit in like that?
I I have a proposal with that story, and I'm loving the passion of the stories and the emotions for this one. My proposal is that I think maybe the more intentionally you either do or do not swear, I think the bigger deal it is. And maybe something to compare it to. I think that when little kids pick their nose in public, it's just like, oh, it's like, oh, silly child, like, oh, gross. I don't know. Sometimes it can even be cute, right? Like if they're doing the whole like sucking the thumb while picking the nose at the same time, you're like, okay, that's a cute kid.
I can't relate.
Well, in comparison, um, when you grow up and it's now expected that you understand and know the societal norms and expectations, it's no longer cute if you're picking your nose, right? It's very frowned upon. Um, and I guess I say that by saying, I guess your friend group, Caleb, the fact that they like just flat out are like, oh, we like to say the F word here, I think denotes their very conscientious choice of how they're trying to portray themselves and are using swearing to try and do that. Whereas in contrast, if they hadn't told you that, like, I don't know, if they just normally like I'm thinking of like, yeah, there's like some old grandpa, right? Some old grandpa, and man, like he just lets the D or H word fly, no problem, and that's just how he talks. Or just to where it doesn't. I guess does that make sense? That's why I wanted to show like the cultural uh, linkage origin story. I guess basically trying to say that like if swearing means a lot to you, then it is a big deal. But then if it doesn't mean a lot to you, I don't really know if it is. Did that make sense? I feel
Oh
like I
yeah.
jumped a little some. Go, please.
It's not a sin.
I think the only difference. Oh, I think the only difference is that with the coffee and or we were like equating it to addiction earlier too. Um, I think that that's inherently like that's denoting it as something that is like wrong. Like God has. I guess um it's it's more wrong than outside of just a social construct. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Well, we have a
There's
specific
nothing.
commandment in the Doctrine and Covenants that says coffee is against the word of wisdom. There's nothing specific that says that, like saying the D word or the F word, you know what I mean, is against that.
It's also the time that he grew up in. When our grandparents grew up, I don't think hell and damn were bad. Just like over in England,
Yeah.
they say it all the time, and to them, it's literally not a swear word. That's just a word that they use. Like,
Well,
when
so
they
That
study, it's
that's
not a swear
fascinating,
word.
right?
And it
That
evolved.
that
I remember my dad telling me a story of his grandma, so my great great grandma. There was this female dog running in the yard, and she called it a B word, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, like grandma!" But to her, it's literally just what they called the dog. It
A
wasn't
female dog.
Yeah, exactly. It's just what they called it. It wasn't a swear word, so they're not necessarily swearing in their eyes. That's just what we see it as now in our day as a swear word. So you also got to think of the culture that they grew up in. Was it actually a swear word for them? Because it might not actually be one. These are just
Also,
words
So
that we come up
I'm
with, and
gonna
they constantly evolve.
I'm gonna skip I'm gonna skip this for strength of youth comparing stuff because I think we probably got good enough there.
well, and back to
I
the topic thing. So it says that misusing Heavenly Father's, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost names is a sin, right? But
no
Profaning
pause. We're
the
talking
Godhead
about
is
that later,
definitely a
Tanner.
sin.
here's the next part. It says profane, vulgar, or crude language or gestures are offensive to the Lord and to others. It doesn't say it's a sin. It says it's offensive.
And I mean, I guess that's true. I guess just yeah, I'm trying to continually hit that if you swear because you're trying, I guess yeah, like Caleb, I think your story is a perfect example, Caleb. I think your friends are trying to be edgy. They're trying, they're like, oh hey, we say the F word a lot. They want that persona, that like look. Um, then I think that falls just in with what you said, Tanner, that it's offensive to God because he doesn't want us to come off as, I don't know, rude or crude, right? Whereas, yeah, those were some killer examples, Reagan, that, yeah, for our grandparents, like, hell and damn, is it like, meh, like I don't know. Many of you have met my grandpa Dumar, and know what a saintly man he is. And I mean, when something's wrong on the stucco job, he'll let out a hell or damn every now and then. But
Everyone that works in construction does that.
Yeah.
right, and so isn't that funny? So that doesn't seem like as big of a deal anymore. But if you
Yeah, I
change the
wanted
cultural,
Sorry,
go
didn't
ahead.
mean to interrupt your thought. I wanted to jump real quick back to Brooklyn's metaphor she used earlier. Even if I think we started kind of nitpicking the metaphor before she got a chance to tell us more thoughts about that. Brooklyn, I just wanted to hear more of your thoughts about your comparison with the coffee idea. If you had more to say about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Say
Well,
amen to
thank
everything Brooklyn just said.
Really
Very
quick.
well
thank
read.
So Reagan and I have
th-
to get going, but I have two thoughts that I just want to share real quick
wait.
before we leave.
Oh, uh,
And let's go
okay.
really quick. Go fast, Joseph. Go
If
fast.
if you want to, well, no, it's okay. If you want to join on a phone, we'd love to have you just to at least finish this one. We'll try to wrap it up in 5 minutes, but you go super fast, Caleb, and then I'll go.
Okay. Again, so really quick, I personally, from just my personal point of view, I agree with Brooklyn. I love it. I think that when she was talking, I thought about the scripture about how we're called to be a light set on a hill, and we're meant to be an example to others. So I love that, and I agree with it, and I think generally we shouldn't swear. But just to play devil's advocate, I'm gonna say, okay, what's the difference between saying the F word and then saying frick, or like saying, like, oh my freaking heck, like what the gosh.
Yeah. Euphemisms are definitely a thing that should we be doing that,
Yeah, because I mean, according to cultural
Well,
standards, I mean it's just a different word. But anyway, those are my final thoughts. We have to go. I love you guys. Namaste, and we'll try to join on the phone. But if we don't make it, we love you guys.
Love
all right. We
you.
love y'all. Thanks for joining.
That's
See
good.
ya.
See you guys.
Thank you very much, Kyla, for fighting to get Brooklyn in there again to talk. And I think I'm the one who cut you off earlier, my dear. I am sorry for that. Thank you very much for your thoughts. You helped me to remember why I put these in, these for Strength of Youth ones. And it's more so that it really kind of, well, yeah, it'll emphasize the reason why I think this is a good topic to talk about in the first place. Can I get a volunteer to read? This is the old for Strength of Youth on swearing. This is what we
Yeah,
grew up with.
I got it. Help others around you use clean language by your example and by good-naturedly encouraging them to choose other words. Politely walk away or change the subject when others around you use bad language.
Okay, and could I get a volunteer to read? This is the
Yeah,
new
I
version.
can read. I'll read the new one. Okay, make sure your language reflects love of God and others, whether you're communicating in person or virtually. Say things that uplift, nothing that might be divisive, hurtful, or offensive, even as a joke. Your words can be powerful. Let them be powerful for good.
So, when comparing these two, I feel like a major change happened, and it has to do with the second half of the old version. The second half of the old version says that when swearing is happening around you, bad language, I guess essentially cut it out, right? Change the subject, walk away.
Walk away. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Whereas, and I want to give, whereas now I think this new version has this emphasis of like your capabilities and your empowerment of how you present yourself. And I guess I like this distinction for three things. Option one, well, one is just a story. Brooklyn and I were driving back with some family from an event, and we were listening to, I think it was a podcast in the car, and the podcast swore, and there was some serious drama and serious hurt feelings and anger going on, that some people in the car wanted to continue listening to the podcast and other people in the car wanted to turn it off. And there was hurt feelings that people wanted to turn it off and hurt feelings that people wanted to keep it on. And I feel like you can see it as a serious clash of this idea of, if they're swearing, I got to get out, right? I gotta go. I love that they take that out, because I think it shows an understanding of, since swearing is a cultural thing, I can still control and choose how I present myself. And so when other people are swearing around me, or I'm experiencing media that's swearing around me, I can make the judgment call of just, how big of a deal is this? And I think that, like, it's not all media is okay now if it swears, because, man, there's some people there's some media that you can feel are trying to be crude and uh, shocking with their language, whereas other times it's like I don't know. It's like, oh, if there's like a swear word in a movie, or something, it's like, oh, whatever, like big deal. Like it. Excuse me. I guess that's why I feel like it's important to differentiate it from like as if it was like coffee. Some coffee's a man. Whoever's like are not members listening to this are gonna think we're all crazy guys. um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it shows that we can still be in the world and not of it, as Christ said, right? I think the whole reason why there's an entry on swearing at all has to do with Alma 127. This is when Mormon is talking about some new converts to the church, and at the very end he says that they were neat and comely. And that's why I think swear words change and standards change, because cultures change. But the goal God always wants us to do is to be neat and comely, to make sure that we have language that reflects love and the love of God. And yeah, if someone's using swear words, like it's not I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not a reason to cut that person out by any means. And any use of swearing has degrees. I mean, J. Golden Kimball, it was funny, like hearing about how often he would use it as humor in his conference talks. The specific quote I was going to share is, I guess, I don't remember who, but the prophet wrote a conference talk for him so that it wouldn't be any swearing in it. And he had such a time reading it. He was like talking, trying, and after a couple minutes, he was like, "Brother, I cannot read a beep thing in this." Like you can feel the like, oh, funny, and like, yeah, I guess that was my big hot take I wanted to communicate on swearing, is that there's not a need to, we are empowered of how we present ourselves, and we don't need to be cutting out other people or other things because they swear, because it's just a cultural thing. If we want to, like, I'm not going to tell you got to listen to swearing things. My goodness. I guess just don't tell me to not to.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle and I were talking about this last night, just swearing in general, and it's come up quite a few times in our discussions because, like I sometimes listen to things that swear.
Well, and the annoying thing is things like YouTube, like they don't require ratings for their videos.
Yeah.
And so where you can go watch a movie and it's automatically going to have a worse rating if they say certain words, more than so many times or whatever. Well, that gives the movie a worse rating. But things like YouTube or Instagram, you don't have to follow that. And so it's really annoying when you start hearing these words over and over and you're like, wow, if this was a movie, this would automatically be rated so badly. Anyway.
No, I agree with you there. But I think after like looking at this, and especially the for strength of youth and the church topic on it, taking the Lord's name in vain specifically is the sin, whereas everything else is offensive, not necessarily a sin.
I think that traces back to what Brooklyn was talking about earlier, just about our own hearts, our own conversion to Christ, and what we want to be someday. If our goal is to someday be like God, well, I imagine that does not involve an eternal life of swearing, right? If we want our hearts to be converted, we're going to be doing things and saying things that are neat and comely, like that scripture says. I think that even goes with what Caleb was saying just before he left about words that are not specifically swear words, but people will use in place of them. Because obviously, I think especially among members of the church, we're using substitution swear
Same
word
intent but different sounds.
Right. It's like, well, the intent is the same, and when you do find yourself using those words, you're probably in a frame of mind that you need to work on some Christ-like attributes. Maybe maybe we're feeling angry, maybe we're feeling upset and stressed and whatever, and those are the moments when we're using those even substitute swear words. And so that's something that just is more of an introspective, like, okay, I need to become a better person. I need to work on my conversion to Christ. And if that is better, then I naturally won't be using these words, regardless of whether they're real or substitute. Right?
Because we want to come across as neat and comely, or as someone who has love. Like, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Kyla. I think the intent makes it so different. Whether you're actually saying a swear word or you're saying some fake substitute, that intent is a big deal. Now, I'm going to try to speed us up
Hey,
a
Caleb,
little
we got
more.
some echo on your end.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome back. How exciting. We just finished the discussion on swear words for everything except taking God's name in vain. And we have achieved enlightenment on that topic. And you are more than welcome to listen to the recording afterwards and hear how smart we are. For the so this is, we're going to be talking about Exodus 20 verse 7. What did I want to say? My thought on this. Well, okay, you know what? Can I get some readers to? These are kind of popular understanding of these verses through the ages. Would people be willing to popcorn read? And Nephi, okay, yeah. If you want to go ahead, and then we haven't heard much from you, Nephi. I'm sorry if I'm kind of bulldozing you, not letting you in.
I haven't seen him in a little bit.
Oh, well, that answers that. Okay, go ahead and go ahead and start, please.
Recognized his.
And that has to do with some of the Hebrew roots of the terminology, is that it was largely an oath and vow thing, like to like I think Christ even says it in like the New Testament, right? To like not swear on like anything, like not even on the hair of your head, because like you can't control your hair growing, right? But yeah, let's keep going. You want to popcorn someone?
Right. For the later interpretation, over time, the interpretation expanded to include any disrespectful or inappropriate use of God's name. This includes using it casually in curses or in false oaths.
And I can take the last one, yeah. Today, the commandment is often understood as the call to reverence and respect for God. This can include avoiding using God's name in a disrespectful or flippant way, as well as using it thoughtfully and intentionally in prayer, worship, and testimony.
Basically, I think that any use or reference to God is more about intent than any other swear word, because like the actual words themselves, like damn and hell, just like using the word period, people would be like, oh, that's kind of edgy, right? But it's fascinating that in the case of God, the same words that one might use to express anger and frustration are the same words used to express love and sacredness. So, yeah, I guess that's my emphasis there, that I think intent really decides it even more here than before. That I think you can have a sweet old Southern grandma who uses God, who references God and uses Jesus's name in ways that I don't, but I think that she's still a super sweet Southern grandma. However, some additional interpretation that I think we specifically as Latter-day Saints could add to this commandment is actually kind of a bigger deal and a heavier charge than I think what most people consider. I'll read this one and then I can popcorn someone else. So, In 3 Nephi 18, it says, "Ye shall not suffer anyone knowingly to partake of my flesh and blood unworthily, when ye shall minister it. For whoso eateth and drinketh my flesh and blood unworthily eateth and drinketh damnation to his soul." And would someone like to read wait, not someone. Caleb, are you on? Would you like to read Moroni 4:3?
Yep, I got you. O God, the eternal Father, that they are willing to take upon them the name of thy Son, and always remember him, and keep his commandments which he has given them, that they may always have his Spirit to be with them. Amen.
So my last hot take on swearing is that I think that the commandment applies like at no time greater than we are when we are taking the sacrament. When we are covenanting to take God's name upon ourselves and to be his representative, I think that if we do that in vain without intent to try to change, or without intent to be a minister and an angel of service and love for our fellow siblings, I think that's when we are drinking damnation to our souls. Our progress, our spiritual progress is stopped, and we're not able to progress until we're humble enough and willing enough and repentant enough to truly strive to be more like God. So that's my hot take, y'all. I think swearing is pretty much about intent and how you want to be perceived. And the more people you're around who are more intentional about it, it has different implications, right? I think that you want to be wise in your media choices, but you don't need to automatically turn off media. I mean, it's up to you, but because it's not some inherent sin thing, I think you have choice in that area. And I think when it comes to God's name, the most important thing is for us to be taking the sacrament worthily. So, hot take.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts before we move on to the last topic, and or stop the recording and save the last topic for another time?
No, I think this was very productive. I feel like my perspective has changed both with Adam and Eve and with swearing. Uh, yeah, I think that I agree with you in that last statement, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, before I thought that all swearing was like bad and a sin that you shouldn't do it. But after like looking it up and discussing it, it's really the taking of the Lord's name in vain is the sin, whereas the other swearing is offensive. Well, we shouldn't do it, the offensive bit. It's not necessarily the worst thing you can do. So I guess
Not
that's how my perspective changed.
it. I love that for strength of youth contrast to have it used to say cut it out, right? Cut out people who are swearing versus. I guess I feel like the change is a change of it's up to you. Be someone
I
who
feel like a lot of it
shows
is
love.
focused on yourself too. Like you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do. You know.
You know, there's even a
Yeah.
cute little animated, it's like a little 5-minute animated thing that the church has on their Gospel for Kids YouTube, which I love to show Ari on Sundays. They have a bunch of cute little animated things. Anyway, there's one where this little girl, she's on a bus, and this bully keeps swearing because he knows that he's gonna get a reaction out of her, and she's gonna be all like, oh no, like please stop and whatever. Anyway, she talks to her grandma about it, and basically, I mean, she has to take the bus to and from school, right? She can't just take herself out of that situation like the original For the Strength of Youth would suggest, like, oh, just get out of there. It's like, well, she's kind of stuck with this guy who's gonna keep swearing just because he knows, you know, he's gonna get a reaction out of her. And her grandma essentially tells her, like, hey, you can control what you can do, even if you can't control what he does. And anyway, her solution is she ends up just like putting in earbuds, turning up her music, and essentially ignoring him until he just stop swearing in front of her anyway. And it's just a cute little kids animated thing, right? But it does kind of demonstrate that idea of what can you do if you don't want to be around that. What's something you can control? So I think that's a good principle. What can you do yourself? Because we cannot control anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
We can only control our own actions.
I love that, Kyla. Thank you. I feel like that hits home so well that you, and I guess that perspective change and the restraint of youth. That I feel like, yeah, just because someone's getting their hands in the crude oil doesn't mean you have to join them, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like it. Oh, I couldn't have said it better. I feel like I detracted from your statement because my statement wasn't as beautiful. But but with that, what's your guys' thoughts? Do we have time for one more? Stamina for one more? I think this will be a shorter one, or should we save it for another day? I'm totally
I think
fine
we
with
should
either.
save it for another day because I feel like this is I don't know. I
A
wanted
good
to
place to
discuss the
conclude.
topic in depth with everyone. You know.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, if this is our final one, all right, we got to vote for each side. Do you have a preference, my love? Okay, we'll do another day. That
Melody is just waiting to have a bathroom break over here, so I'm just wait too.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great reason to have a break, and hopefully next time we'll be able to have Nephi with us as well. Again, I sent out the link to the Adam and Eve article. It is just an amazing article, and reading it just makes you be like, "Holy cow! Why have I not known this before?" I'll the link will be in the slides, and I think all of you should have access to the slides. I'll share the slides with our wives as well because I don't think they have access. But any other last thoughts or questions? And if not, I'm excited to one day tell you guys why everyone interprets Alma in the wrong way. So, yeah.
Yeah, love it. Sweet.
All
That's a
right.
wrap.
Here's
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Joe.
yeah,
Awesome
here's
job.
to standing up on a Remiemptum another time. I love you
Yeah,
all. Thanks for being
that's
great
my Paul
examples in my
right there.
life.
That is my Paul.
Woo! Okay, and